It started with something small that I didn't think twice about. She left her phone face down on the kitchen counter, buzzing again and again while she was in the shower. I remember glancing at it because anyone would. The name that popped up wasn't saved, just a single initial. I didn't open it. I told myself I trusted her. That's what you do in a marriage, right? You don't become the kind of person who snoops. When she came out, she grabbed it a little too quickly. Not panicked exactly, just practiced. Like someone who had done it before. She smiled at me, kissed my cheek, asked what we were having for dinner. Normal. Too normal. We'd been married 6 years. No kids yet, just waiting for the right time. Or so we kept saying. Life felt stable. Predictable. Safe. But that night, I couldn't forget the way her thumb hovered over the screen before she turned it off. I told myself it meant nothing. That was the first lie I told myself. After that night, I started noticing patterns I had somehow missed before. She would get these late work messages that made her step out of the room. Always brief, always quiet. She'd come back acting the same, but not quite. Like her mind was split in 2 places. Once, I saw her smiling at her phone in a way she hadn't smiled at me in weeks. It wasn't romantic, not obviously. But it was engaged. Alive in a way I hadn't seen in a while. When I asked her about it casually, she said it was just a coworker stressing about deadlines. M drives everyone crazy. She laughed. You'd hate him. That stuck with me. The way she said him. Still, I didn't push. I didn't want to become the suspicious husband. I told myself I was just tired, insecure, overthinking. But I started remembering old things, how she used to mention this person before, always with irritation, always saying she couldn't stand him. Funny how hate sometimes sounds a lot like attention. Things escalated slowly, almost politely, like a fire refusing to announce itself. She started guarding her phone more carefully. Not in an obvious way, just subtle shifts. Turning notifications off. Angling the screen away. Bringing it even to the bathroom, which she never used to do. One evening, I woke up at 2:17 a.m., and she wasn't in bed. I found her in the living room, lit only by the glow of her phone. She was typing fast, her face soft in a way I didn't recognize. When she saw me, she startled and locked the screen instantly. Can't sleep, she said. Just scrolling. But her voice was wrong. Too calm. Too rehearsed. I went back to bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her footsteps a few minutes later. That night I realized something uncomfortable. I didn't actually know what she did when I wasn't watching. And worse, I didn't know if I ever really had. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some cinematic discovery. It was a Tuesday. She left her laptop open while she showered. A notification popped up in the corner. I wasn't even trying to look, but my eyes caught it. You there? Simple. Casual. Familiar. Something in my chest tightened immediately. I told myself again not to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was work. Maybe it was harmless. But then another message preview appeared. I miss talking to you like this. My hands actually went cold. I didn't open anything. I closed the laptop and sat there feeling stupid for how fast my thoughts spiraled. When she came back, she kissed me on the forehead like nothing had changed. And I realized I was now living in a house where something had clearly shifted, but I was the only one who felt the floor move. I couldn't sleep properly after that. Every time she picked up her phone, my mind filled in blanks I didn't want filled. Every silence between her messages felt suspicious. Every smile felt borrowed. But I still didn't confront her. Instead, I started observing. Quietly. Pathetically, if I'm honest. I learned her patterns. When she texted most. When usually appeared. Late evenings, early mornings, small gaps in her routine. She still acted normal. Still asked about my day. Still cooked dinner, still laughed at my jokes. That's what made it worse. Nothing was breaking loudly. It was all whispering. One night, I heard her say his name under her breath while scrolling. Just M. Like it carried weight. She didn't notice I heard her. But I did. And after that, I stopped being able to pretend I was imagining things. The truth came out in a way I still can't fully explain. Not because she confessed. Not because I confronted her. Because her phone died. We were watching TV when it happened. She groaned, went to get her charger, left it on the couch. A message preview lit up the screen anyway. Don't pretend you don't think about it too. I read it before I could stop myself. Something in me cracked, not loudly, but permanently. When she came back, I was holding her phone. She froze instantly. Not shocked. Not confused. Just caught. That expression told me everything before she even spoke. You went through it? She asked quietly. And I said the only thing I could. I didn't have to. That was the moment everything changed shape in the room between us. The silence after that was unbearable. She didn't deny it immediately. That was the worst part. She sat down slowly, like her body had turned heavy. It's not what you think, she finally said. I almost laughed. I actually almost laughed. Because I had spent weeks thinking. Building theories. Trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. And now she was telling me it wasn't what I thought? I asked her who M was. She hesitated. Then she said, someone I used to work with closely. Used to. I pressed harder. And now? She looked away. We talk sometimes. Sometimes. That word did more damage than anything else. Because I knew what sometimes meant. I wasn't stupid. Just slow to accept what I already understood. Eventually it came out in fragments. They had been emotionally involved. Not officially. Not physically, according to her. Just attached. Late-night conversations. Venting. Confiding. Building something she insisted was complicated but harmless. She kept repeating that word, harmless. But nothing about it felt harmless to me. Especially when she said, I don't even like him like that. That sentence broke something in my brain. You hate him, I said. Yes, she replied too quickly. And I just stared at her. Because why does someone you hate get your most vulnerable conversations? Why does someone you hate get your attention at 2 a.m.? She started crying then, saying I didn't understand emotional loneliness, that I hadn't been present enough lately. And suddenly I wasn't just betrayed, I was being reassigned as the reason for it. I tried to process everything without exploding. But it didn't work. I asked her to show me the messages. She refused at first. That refusal said more than any message ever could. When she finally did, I saw it. All of it. Inside jokes. Emotional confessions. Long paragraphs at night that she never sent me anymore. The intimacy wasn't physical, but it was unmistakably intimate. There was trust there. The kind we hadn't had in months. I scrolled for maybe 2 minutes before I had to stop. My stomach felt like it was collapsing inward. You said you hated him? I repeated. I do, she said again, weaker this time. But hate doesn't sound like this. It doesn't sound like comfort. Or dependency. Or familiarity. It sounds like a lie people tell themselves to justify staying emotionally entangled. We stopped sleeping in the same bed that night. Not officially. Nothing was decided. It just happened. She stayed on the couch. I stayed upstairs staring at the ceiling again, like I had in the beginning. Except now there was no ignorance to protect me. Just clarity. The next day, she tried to act normal again. Made coffee, asked if I wanted breakfast, talked about work like nothing had happened. I couldn't understand how she could switch like that. At one point she said, "Can we just move past this?" Move past. Like it was a disagreement. Like it wasn't months of hidden emotional dependency. I told her I needed space. She nodded too quickly. And that's when I realized something unsettling. She wasn't panicking about losing me. She was managing consequences. Days blurred together after that. We lived like roommates who had once been married. Polite. Careful. Distant. She stopped openly texting him, at least in front of me. But I knew it didn't end. Not really. There were still moments, her phone face down again, her disappearing into other rooms, the same guarded behavior. One night, I asked her directly if she was still talking to him. She said no, but she didn't meet my eyes. That was enough. I stopped asking questions after that. Not because I believed her, but because I didn't trust anything she said anymore, including apologies. And without trust, even truth becomes meaningless. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was the rewiring of everything I thought we were. I kept replaying our marriage in my head, searching for earlier signs I missed. Conversations that meant something else. Moments I misunderstood. It made me question my own memory. Was she ever fully mine emotionally? Or had there always been a part of her elsewhere? I started losing weight without noticing. Stopped sleeping properly. My work suffered. Friends asked if everything was okay. I lied. Because how do you explain that your wife didn't physically cheat, but still managed to feel like she left you anyway? And worse, she still slept in the same house while doing it. We tried one conversation that was supposed to fix things. It didn't. She said she didn't want to lose me. That she loved me. But she also said she felt emotionally seen by him in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. Those two statements existing in the same breath destroyed me more than anything else. Because I realized she wasn't choosing between good and bad. She was choosing between different kinds of connection. And I was just one of them. Not the only one. Not even the most intense one anymore. Just the legally committed one. That's a horrible realization to sit with about your own marriage. Eventually, we stopped pretending. There was no dramatic breakup. No screaming match. Just exhaustion. She moved into a spare room. I stopped asking where she was going at night. We coordinated life like logistics. One evening, I saw her laughing at her phone again. Same expression. Same softness. And I knew. Even if they weren't together, emotionally she never left that space. I stopped caring enough to ask anymore. Because every answer just created a worse question. What hurt most was realizing I wasn't fighting a person. I was fighting a connection I was never part of. Now I'm here, months later, still in the same house. Nothing exploded. Nothing got resolved neatly. We coexist. Sometimes I think about leaving, but I haven't done it yet. Not because I'm holding on to hope, but because I'm still trying to understand how something can be both betrayal and denial at the same time. She still asks me for trust occasionally. It sounds almost ironic now. And I think about that first night, the phone on the counter, the name I didn't recognize, the moment I chose not to look. I keep wondering if that was mercy or the beginning of everything falling apart. Maybe both. Either way, I don't think trust is something I know how to give anymore.